could do stand-up when you're doing the movie. You really can't do television in the movie at the same time, unless you're Kevin Hart. You know what I'm saying? Lord knows, I don't know how he.
I don't know how, man,
the leprechaun. He just do it all, like, you know.
I don't know how. I don't know when he sleeps or how he sleeps.
I was like, he was on the commercial after a commercial one day. I called him. I said, Kevin, enough. All right.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life I've been grinding all my life.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Club Shay Shay. I am your host, Shannon Sharpe. I'm also the proprietor of Club Shay Shay, the guy that's stopping by for conversation and a drink today. Man, he wears a lot of hats. He's an actor, comedian, game show host, executive producer, director, entrepreneur. He also has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, one of the original OGs of the Kings of Comedy. Over 3 decades in the industry, the legend, Cedric the Entertainer.
Say, how you doing,
man,
bro?
what up, bro? What's going on?
Hold on. I don't think I've ever read this many.
That's
Actor,
nice.
comedian, game show host, executive producer, director, entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
The OG.
Yeah. 2 Taco Bells in Omaha, Nebraska.
You got 2 Taco Bells?
I just like, everybody be like, yo, man, I thought they was saying Taco Bells.
Of all the things that I read off, what are you most proud of?
You know, I think for me it's just, you know, all of it. I love to act. I love being a father. I love being a husband. I like, you know, making people laugh on all platforms.
Okay.
So I really just like the fact that more than anything,
You can wear all those hats.
My career has said that I've tried to do and have done a lot of things.
You mentioned you and I was talking off camera, and you say you grew up in Caruthersville,
Yeah.
Missouri, which is a small town near the Arkansas border, moved to St. Louis. When you were growing up in Caruthersville, what was Cedric? What were you thinking? What did he want to be?
You know, I mean, at that time, you know, you wanted to be an athlete. Everybody, that was a small town lifestyle, you know. So, you know, you were like kind of taught to play sports. And my mother was a school teacher. So, you know, education was a big part of our
grades.
Yeah. So that was a big part of my, you know, kind of like internal household. It was just my mother and my younger sister, myself. And so, but, you know, the relatives, all your uncles and cousins, it's like, yo, you got to play sports, man. You got to get out of here.
Okay.
So, but I was also as a young kid, I can remember being a very kind of fun, gregarious kid, like that had the jokes and was quick-witted, even as a kid.
But you couldn't be too because your mom was a school teacher. She was going to hear about you acting a fool in class.
I told people that. I said, I never was the class clown. Everybody was like, you was the class clown? I'm like, nah, I wasn't the class clown. I'll just shoot mine like, ha, and then sit down. Because they actually, when we moved to St. Louis, they were actually, my mother taught in the same school district that we went to.
Okay.
She taught elementary. You know, I was more in junior high school at that time. And so, but the teachers all knew each other. So they was like, oh, you know, if I did something crazy, they called my mother quick. I remember I wanted to be bad one year. And I didn't smoke, but I used to want to hang out with all the kids that like smoke cigarettes. And my grades dropped. My mom was like, "What is going on?" I said, "I just want to be bad, mama. I just want to be bad."
What were the PTA meetings like?
With the mom.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, again, for the most part, she just kind of sit there and want to hear what we did and and what we did wrong, but she was always there. That's one of the reasons why also, like, I was a pretty good athlete.
Right.
But my mother was a single mother raising us, and she picked me up from football practice one time. And because I didn't really know all the stuff, I was in my junior high, my freshman year. I'm at football practice with some church socks on. So because I wanted to look good, I had my athletic socks on, and then I had some matching, like, you know, church socks that looked good with my uniform. And my coach saw it and just was like, what you doing, pretty boy? And basically made me be the tackle dummy for the linebackers and the defensive end. Yeah. And I was just literally running play. My mother came to pick me up and saw them big dudes, put me in the ground. That was it. I was off the football team.
That was it. That was
she
the
was
end
like,
of that.
I was begging. She was like, nah. They ain't gonna do my baby like that.
Okay, so now your athletic career is over.
That's over.
When did you realize that you wanted to be a comedian? How did that happen?
That was really much later, to be honest. I was like I say, as I got transitioned from athletics, started doing the school plays.
Okay.
A wild choice to make back then.
Okay.
That wasn't
Yeah.
really
Now, how did that go over?
Again, it was a certain stigma to that back in there, even more in that time. You know what I'm saying? So, the fact that I wanted to be in plays, then it became this thing like, oh, are you too much of a mama's boy? But I was funny. In the first play I got in, I played. I don't even remember what the character was, but I remember it was funny, and I made people laugh.
So acting was probably the first thing that you wanted to do, even before becoming a comedian.
Probably, and didn't recognize it, right? Didn't have, but at that time the schools had those kind of programs.
Right.
We had band, we had plays and theater department,
drama club.
Yeah, and it was serious. By the time I got to high school, like it was like dope teachers and people really taught you how to act, and so I became strong at that, and that's kind of the choice I made from there on out.
So you doing the drama thing, knowing the stigma that came with that, probably making fun of you. So you're like, okay, when did you realize that you could make something of this?
I think, like, again, during those times, I sang in groups. I was like, kind of where the whole name came from. I used to sing. I used to dance. I was trying to, I told my mother I wanted to go to, like, a high school like Fame.
Right, okay.
At that time, I was like, Mom, I'm good. I can do all that, you know. And the only one we had in St. Louis was, like, in the inner city, and it was, like, really far. 20 miles from my house. I would have had to take the buses. Again, she a single mother. She didn't pull me off the football team. Ain't no way she gonna let me take a bus across town to go to school. So that was out. But I just did what I could in that area. Got in singing groups. Always was like trying to perform different ways. And I think that's when I knew I can entertain the crowd. But it didn't really happen until I got in college and I started like doing a radio show. And just all these kind of things just led to me recognizing my personality and I could hold an audience. And and I started comedy much later than I was out of school. I was working for State Farm, and a dude that was a comedian used to borrow things that I say and was like, "Yo, you could be a comedian." And he just told me to sign me up for a comedy competition.
How did you come up with the name Cedric the Entertainer?
That was I told the story before. It's I don't know what you call it, serendipity, right? Like I used to go by a lot of different names. I used to have,
I know the word Cheerio. You
can't
use that no more. You can't use Cheerio.
Come on, man. Cheerio lit. That's lit, dog.
How did you? First of all, how did you land on Cheerio? Of all the names.
Hey, man, so all I remember was it used to be a comedian named Kodak.
Okay.
And, and he used to go by Kodak. Everybody knew him. And he had the one name. So I had my name. My name is Cedric. I used to do by Cedric. And then when people would announce my real last name, I just didn't really like that as a comedian name. So I was trying to come up with a name. And so I was like, cheer me, happy. And, my name is Cedric. It's a C in it. I'm Cheerio. Like, yeah. He just came out. I had the necklace and everything, dog. I used to have a chain.
So obviously, okay, you start out, you doing the acting, you like the drama aspect of it, but you go to the comedian side. Did you know eventually that becoming a comedian would lead you to be in movies?
Well, it was starting to be around that time. Like, this is late 80s, 87-ish, 89. So you start to see, like of course we had the super famous guys. So it was, Richard Pryor and the Bill Cosbys at that time and the Red Foxes. But then Eddie Murphy was popping off, right? And he was young. He was a guy that felt like us, right? So you start to see like, oh, young people then, shortly after came the, you know, the Living Colors, and then you started to know people like Martin, and then, you know, and I at that time just through stand-up met Steve Harvey. So it was one of those times where you start to recognize, like, all right, cool, comedy can be a way out. Like, you know, it started to grow. But, you know, beforehand, you would just think you could never, because everybody was big time. You know, if you didn't know the low level people, you only knew the big names, and there was very few of them. So that didn't really seem like a true path to, you know, to stardom.
You mentioned that you got your start in the late '80s, but you see the transition that a lot of the comedians made. You look at Richard Pryor being a comedian, and then he's huge. Yes. You see Eddie Murphy, comedian, he's huge. Yes. Obviously, Red Fox and some of the others. Did you think, man, that could be my path?
Once it started to happen, like once I tried stand up, and you know, I mean, the first time I ever did it, I got a standing ovation and won $500. So I what? And you know, that was the most money I made at one time, because I had jobs, I had corporate jobs and did well, but not like somebody hand you a bunch of cash. Like he was like, yo, like, you know, and I started doing the math. Like, if I can do this 3 nights a week, I'll be killing my job. You know,
so while you're selling insurance, or you're with State Farm. Yeah. Are you doing the comedian on the side?
Yeah, I was a claims adjuster, so I handled the rec afterwards.
Okay,
you know, and show up, you know.
So you the one that underselling, nah, it ain't worth that. I give you $500 on the total cost.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, but you know your peoples though. They be coming there trying to, yo, this a classic, say like, no, that's a Cutlass. That's yeah, it's a classic maybe nowadays, but back then that's an old Cutlass family. I know you love it, but that's not. I can't give you all the money you're trying to get for that.
When you told your mom that you like, Mom, this corporate thing ain't for me. I'm about to become a comedian full time. What was her response?
You know, that was a tough one, because my mother, again, she's from a small town, worked her way up through college, definitely believed in get you a job, corporate. That was the journey that everybody did at that time. If you weren't, you know, like an athlete and, you know, gonna be in the NFL or the NBA, then, you know, your best bet was to get a good, you know, get a college degree, get a good corporate job, and work your way up. That was it. And I was on that path. I'm working for State Farm. I got like an opportunity. I wear a suit and tie. I got a little corporate card. I got a company credit card. She like, those are the things that you want in life. And I was like, no, I don't. So I remember I told her I wanted to quit and, you know, and do comedy, but I had a strategy. I was like, I'm not gonna just quit. I want to try to work my way to you know, where it makes sense, but I definitely don't want to do this job.
This is not my 30-year plan.
Yeah, this is not me. And she was like a little saddened by that, you know, thinking that was a good plan. But I remember I told her a joke that I wrote. Man, I wish I could remember this joke exactly, but I just remember I told her a joke that I had written, and we were standing in the kitchen at my childhood house, and she laughed so hard she went to the ground. And that's my vivid memory of my mother getting who I am, you know, like, so it was just a dope moment, because I still just remember the fact she laughed that hard, like she was just, she was on the ground, and so that was like dope. And so, and then she came to a couple of shows. I remember she told me not to curse. So, you know, like, it's so early on in my career, I'm kind of known for not cursing. People think, to this day, people still think I don't curse when I do comedy, but it ain't motherfucking true, Shane.
So when your mom comes, do you have to alter your material when your mom's in the audience?
For sure. I mean, you know, like, to a degree. I mean, I end up, of course, trying to honor that and write to things that was just bright and smart and things that try to have a little more context to them. But, you know, if I had jokes that I felt like was a little risque for her, I probably wouldn't do it if she was at the show. Like, you know, that would be a choice to just, you know, just respect on GP. But you know, it was things that if I felt, I mean, we had to talk about this one time. I was like, Mom, if the joke calls for it, like, I've tried to do it, you know, like where I do it all clean, but I told her, I said, if I write this joke and it feels like it calls for this naturally, I just gotta say it. I don't really want to start to try to alter, you know, my show. But but it did help you from going on stage and just literally using curse words as bridges to the next thing, right? You know?
Sometimes a joke calls for a curse word.
Exactly.
There's no other way around it. That's the only bridge that can connect it.
Exactly.
From the beginning to the end is that curse word.
Exactly. And so, you know, you got to trust that as a comedian. It's instinctual, right? But then, you know, you also know people that basically just use curse words as a bridge to another thing, and they don't even mean it. They didn't have to say it. Right. So it's like, why? You know, but you just kind of relax on it, and then people go like, oh, he raw. Right. And is he?
Yeah. You mentioned that Steve Harvey, you met Steve Harvey. You and he had a show, the Steve Harvey Show, that was unbelievable. Man, we're gonna talk about your sitcom career, cause man, you be knocking them out the park when you hop on it. That thing going to syndication. Yeah, the residual, them thing nice, huh?
Yeah.
You
know what I'm saying? You open up the mailbox in the OG style. Okay. Let's go somewhere.
The movie. How did you transition from, okay, I'm a comedian, okay, I write this, to having something written for you and to be able to project that, let the guy that they see on stage, because this is what they want. They want the funny guy that they seen on stage. They want him to project now for 120 minutes.
Yeah. That was, of course, like, again, I think having my theatrical background and, you know, from high school and in college, you know, it was a part of it. Like stand-up, even my early stand-up had a lot of characters in it. I would do like full characters and scenes to tell a joke. Right. And so I think for me to transition from both television but to film really was a better transition for me because, you know, it has a lot more like true natural character stuff. You know, in TV, you trying to deliver a punchline to hit them, right? But in a movie, you can be the guy, right? Like you can so Barbershop 1 was one of the first thing. I did another small movie called Ride. That was my first movie, and it had the late great John Witherspoon in it playing my brother and Snoop Dogg. But I was like in good hands because the director was from St. Louis. Okay. And Millicent Shelton, and then the producers was the Hudlin brothers. They from East St. Louis. Okay. So it was like this family situation. They took care of it, right? Yeah. So, but I think by the time I started doing Barbershop,
Eddie
became.
But you mentioned that how they wanted you to play another part. Yeah. And you was like, nah, I'm Eddie. Yeah. This me. I got to do Eddie.
Yeah, they wanted, actually it was the part that Anthony Anderson ended up playing was what they wanted me to play. And I was like, when I read the script, I was like, no, this old man, I know him. Like, I can do him. And they were like, you sure? And then, you know, they wanted to cast an older actor. And when I came in and did I did the read, they wanted to hear the script, right? And we did the read. And so when I did it, it just was like, they got it right away. Right. I mean, the voice, the attitude. Right. Like, I could literally do Eddie without even.
I don't know if anybody. It's hard to say that now after seeing you play him in a couple of the series. Yeah. It's hard to believe somebody else could have played that part and done a better job than what you did.
Yeah. I mean, you know, for sure, and I believe that too. It was definitely transitional.
That role was meant for you.
Exactly, transformative in my career. It literally transformed me from being, you know, one of the dudes in the group till when that movie came out, I was in the next situation.
He said, you know what? They see you that. Obviously, Ice Cube did a great job in the movie, but now they see you, not only can you, you know, be a follow-up, but you can lead. Yeah. Okay, was it Johnson Family led to that?
Exactly. Right. And Johnson Family Vacation was, again, one where I also started to add my producer's hat. Right. Because it was a movie that I had that I felt was right for me. Right. We took it to the studio and then made the movie the way we wanted to make it. Right. So that was really great. That was another great transition of being able to, like, grow in this business, go from taking your skill and then putting it into place to build another part of your business. Right.
So now you got the hat, you do the TV and you're unbelievable with the TV. So how are you juggling? I mean, like when you doing a movie, obviously there's no stand-up gig because a movie you 3-4 months. Yeah. There's no TV because you can you hop back and forth?
You could do stand-up when you're doing a movie. You really can't do television in a movie at the same time unless you're Kevin Hart. You know what I'm saying? Lord knows, I don't know how he.
I don't know how, man.
The leprechaun, he just do it all. Like, you know.
I don't know how. I don't know when he sleeps or how he sleeps.
I was like, he was on the commercial after a commercial one day. I was like, you know what? I called him. I said, Kevin, enough. All right, I'm buying it all. I got everything you can sell it, so don't talk to me no more. So
I'm going to talk about your wine.
Oh yeah, man.
You came out with a wine, Zeta Napa Valley Red, which was inspired by your mom, Rosetta.
Yeah.
And served as an educator for 30 years. Obviously, I have a cognac also. Tell us about the process of coming up with a wine or coming up with something that's going to honor your mother, because obviously when someone does that, that person had a tremendous influence, an impact on their life, and you want you want the world to know who this woman is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, my mother didn't really drink much or, you know, have, you know, that kind of lifestyle, but she would like a glass of wine every now and then. So, you know, of course, I've been approached like so many people about different brands, you know, partner with, you know, liquor companies and liquor brands. And, you know, a friend of mine had started working in Napa. And then another friend that I have a business with knew the winery. And I just went to go meet the guy one day. We sat on the wine, you know, in the vineyard, chilled, talked, got to know each other, started laughing, started drinking, and then he liked to do philanthropic things with wine.
Right.
And so we started to develop this idea that my mother was an educator and into literacy, so we can develop a wine and give to literacy programs, you know. And so that's how we developed the Zeta. And, you know, I started to really understand the wine, started tasting it, started explain what I wanted, and got something that I felt is very special. I wish I'd have brought you a bottle. You know, it's like very special that it's a great wine, man. People enjoy it. It's doing really well. And we're actually, you know, on our second vintage, so we're like popping off right now.
Congrats on that.
Yeah.
The TV, Steve Harvey was your first.
Yeah.
Then you had your own.
Yeah, so I went Steve Harvey, then I did Cedric the Entertainer Presents.
Yep.
That was on Fox. Then we went to the Soul Man.
Yep.
And now The Neighborhood.
Right.
So, and I had a couple of pilots all in between, but those are the ones that ran, like, you know.
In The Neighborhood now is in syndication.
Yep, Neighborhood syndication, Soul Man syndication, Steve Harvey show. And, you know, we only did one season of Cedric the Entertainer Presents, and, it, you know, it's unfortunate because it's got great skits on there. But it was around that same time that the Chappelle show was popping off, too. And so it just, you know, those two things were in competition as far as the audience goes, I guess.
When you sit down and you do TV, what are you trying to get across? What do you want the audience to see? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to feel?
Like, I mean, for me, like, you know, like I said, growing up in a small town, my biggest memory of watching TV was watching it with my grandmother. You know, like that was her thing when she came home and chill. As the grandkids, we all kind of gathered around her. So I remember shows like Hee Haw. And Laughing.
Right.
And so,
you know, the Jeffersons, Good Time, All in the Family,
all that stuff, man. And so it was that feeling of knowing that when people come home, they want to laugh, they want to be with each other, and they want to be able to do something. So that's the same feeling I'm trying to give when I do a TV show. I'm trying to tell you a story and allow you to kind of come into these people's world that makes you laugh, and you can sit back and just watch their stuff and have a good time. And that's, you know, and if every now and then from the Jeffersons and from Good Times, you learn every now and then you can put in a real message. You can say something important, but it ain't a requirement.
Right.
Yeah.
When you were sitting there watching those, did you ever think you would have one of those?
Oh, no. You know, again, you think about being in a small town like that in Missouri, that's so far removed. That's so far removed. So far away. And even, you know, once you get to Hollywood, you realize how far it is away. I just remember, like, you know, came up on the Comic View, really getting my popularity in the black as a comedian in the black community.
Yes.
So I remember used to really being black famous.
Right.
And people in Hollywood had no idea who I was. Right. So I was super, like, if I went to Detroit, dog, I might shut this mall down, you know, but you come out here, you go in the meeting like Cedric the Interrogator. Oh, gonna love you. Love your stuff, Cecil. You're so funny. You'd be like, it's Cedric.
You have Patti LaBelle on your show, and she plays your mother.
Yes.
What's it like working with Patti? Did she bring you any pie?
Man, it was COVID, so she couldn't bring anything. I was trying to talk her into, cooking. Because, and she's actually made food for me before. So, Miss Patty can get down.
Oh, she get down like that?
Yeah, so that's like another thing that people don't know. Like, even when she's on tour, she have a whole kitchen come in, so she cooks. So, but it was COVID. We couldn't really do any of these things. But she's so great. She's gracious. She actually, I do a big fundraiser for my mom in St. Louis, and she was one of the first people to say yes to come in and perform for that, have a big gala, and so she's just great. So when I called her to come and play my mother, it just was really kind of full circle, because that was the only one my mother got to see before she passed, was when Patty came. So that was great. So it was like she was the only one lady. I mean, other than Gladys Knight, there was the two that I wanted to be my mama.
We talked about earlier, and like telling jokes, but now said we're in a different time.
Yeah.
Things that were funny and you could say about different groups.
Yeah.
You can't say as much now, or you can't say it all. How do you walk that line? Do you go right up to it? Because, I mean, still, Chappelle, Chappelle's like, look, I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
And my job sometimes is to offend people. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Yeah. I'm going to say the joke. I'm going to say what needs to be said, and you do with it. But I think he's different, because Chappelle doesn't need, he walked away from Hollywood.
Yeah,
so he said, I don't really need Hollywood. I'm going to tell these jokes because I can go sell my to Netflix and we cool. Yeah. Or I'm going to go do stand-up and we cool. How do you walk that line, Sid?
I mean, it's the thing that you have to be most aware of. I think as a comedian, of course, your job is to be, a provocateur, orator of the world, the way you see it. It's important for comedians to be free to say things in the way they see it and the way they want to say it. So I'm a big fan of that.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm on CBS.
The Tiffany.
Okay, so I pretty much know if I say something that crossed the line, it won't necessarily just affect my livelihood. But again, having a big TV show means that you hire. I probably have, a crew and a staff of 130 people that work for me. And if I'm willing to just fall on the sword of some joke and ruin it for everybody else, is not really responsible.
Right.
So I think about it that way as well. So certain things, you might want to say it, and then you decide. When I'm on that stand-up stage, I feel like it's my duty to be free up there.
Yeah.
So I don't try to, temper myself too much, and at the same time, my brand and who I am in general is not necessarily to offend. Right. My joke's gonna have, they can be offensive to some.
But there's a message. And at the end of the day, a comedian job, he wants to be funny, but he's trying to get a message point. He's trying to. Because a lot of things happen. These are truth that I made funny.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say this too: if you could kind of stand in the truth of what you believe, then that's that. You're gonna have your argument. People gonna have dissenting opinions. So be it. You know what I mean? But if I believe I'm really truthful about this, and I'm not saying something for shock value or just to be rude or just to feel like I'm, being contrary.
You end up there trying to be the old Andrew Dice Clay.
Right. I'm just contrary for the hell of it. Right. Like just gonna be rude to people.
Right.
Like that ain't dope to me. So
when you look at the fallout, I don't know what your feelings are on what transpired at the Oscars. But looking at the fallout and the aftermath, do you believe Will Smith will ever be what he once was?
I think it'll be tough. I think that it really will be a tough call. I know that, that this is a town that is about that business of business, and Will Smith has proven to be a box office star, has that star been dampered? Sure. So will the people take these chances? Yeah, and if he's able to do it again and hit when he hit, King Richard was out at the time that it happened, but it's, again, a successful movie that still plays every day, right? And he won the Oscar the night he did the actual deed, and so people don't relate them as the same thing for whatever reason, right? There's that deed and then King Richard, and you're like, oh, I like that movie and I'm willing to watch it, maybe because it's about Serena and them in a bigger story, but I don't put them in the same category. So, they're both good dudes to me, and so it was unfortunate to see it happen. You know, and I'm two sides in the coin. I got in trouble for a joke because I felt like sometimes, you know, somebody got to get the shit slapped out of them. I ain't saying
it should have been Chris,
but somebody, I mean, people act like that ain't a real thing in life. Like that's a thing that people forget because we live in this Twitter world, and everybody feel like they can say what they want to say, and people forget. Oh, it's a part of the world. Somebody exists. You might get the shit slapped out of you.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. I ain't saying it should be Chris.
Did the apology seem sincere? I mean, he's come out. I mean, I thought when he got up there to accept the award, said, "This is just me." He apologized to everyone, the Academy and this one and that one, but not the man he had just slapped.
He was mad that night. He was really mad, dog. And like, I don't know exactly what the thing was, but what all I tell people, in my opinion, is for you to physically get up and go and walk 20 feet.
In that place.
In any place.
At that moment.
Any place. If you ever been in a fight, bro, you understand, like you on that football field, y'all out there grinding. If you get outside yourself for the moment that you literally about to fight another person, you're not who you are.
Right.
Period. It just don't happen unless you a brute.
Right.
Like if you a brute and you walk around thugging people, that's you. But most human beings, dog, for me to literally go, I'm gonna walk up and slap shit out.
Right.
I'm not me right now. I'm outside my normal way of being. And that's the truth. Because I've had physical altercations and I can remember not knowing what happened, what
led to it.
It was on. You said something, you spit on me, you called me there, it happened, we went. We didn't, you know, everything else was out the window, all the decorum and
what about the movie? What about the movie?
Yeah, what about the movie? What am I doing? Oh, this dude walked 30 feet to do that.
He did.
You don't do that, dog. You don't do that in a natural sense of state. That's not a human reaction to something unless you wake up every day as a villain.
Right.
That's what villains do. Right. But a normal person ain't gonna walk 30 feet to go slap somebody. You mad, for real.
What's going on with the comedians? I just saw last week Michael Blackson and Cat Williams was beefing. Michael Blackson said something about, you know, comedians can be forgiven. I think he said that Cat Williams smoked crack. Cat took offense to that. We see Monique and DL was going back and forth. Monique has since apologized. But y'all like rappers. Y'all can't we just get along? Man, what's up with the comedian beef?
I need the chains, man. We like rappers, man. I would need a little baby chain. No, you know, I think that, again, we live in a world where we definitely more accessible to people. And, you know, the idea that somebody makes any comment about anything, then people can take that, any soundbite, cut it up in a way that makes it an offensive statement, right? And if people take that and we live in a world where that comes to fruition, then you have a lot of misunderstandings. You do have people jumping on these things for the idea of the fodder of it all, like the idea. So half the time, you know, those incidents don't even, you know, be real. Like, you know, again, people end up apologizing because they go like, oh, I didn't even have all my facts. You know, oh, at the time, I didn't know, I was just mad. And it comes off good because we all live in this, if I put it on my Instagram, then it's true. You know? So that's what I really feel that's happening in the world of comedy now. Because it is a bunch of measurements about who is the best and why, and who, you know, and some people base it on money, some people base it on funny. And so, you know, like, and people start to measure themselves by that kind of thing. And, you know, luckily for me, I'm just from a generation where we out the way, at least for me. Like, I don't.
Well, you and Cat, Cat say you stole one of his jokes.
Yeah, like, I mean, it was ridiculous. You know what I mean? It was like the idea of the joke that he was even talking about don't even match up with no timeline. So for me, it was one of those things like.
Did you have a conversation? Did you guys sell it? Did you have a conversation with Cat?
Well, I responded to him the way he responded to me, but that's what I said as well. I've seen Cat, you know, even before then. I've seen this guy 30 times. Like, dog, if you literally was that upset about it, like, dog,
just step to me and say, hey,
yeah, why didn't you say nothing? Like, that don't even make sense. This is some internet shit, and that's all I can say. So, you know, when I responded to him, he didn't respond back to me, and I left it at that.
Do you feel that someone else has stolen some of your material?
Oh, that's a part of this business. Like, you know, and I think that, you know, sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's not. Like, you know, like I would say sometimes people will hear a joke or take a slice of your material and make it their thing, right? But the origin of the joke came from you,
right?
And so that's happened. That's a part of it. That is not an uncustomary thing.
Right.
Now, everybody knows that comedians, your job is to write original material.
Right.
Your job is to have original point of view. So I'm not saying that that's not something that can't happen. But this particular thing didn't happen. But in general, yes, I've had people take my joke. You hear?
Did they make it funnier than you made it?
I don't. Maybe for them. You know what I'm saying? It worked for them. They put it in their set.
Right.
Like you hear it, like you're like, yo, dog, that's my joke. Like you just changed it a little bit, but that's my joke.
You look at Aries Spears, and I want to talk about him and his thing to Lizzo. Was that off limits, off base?
Again, it's a branding thing. Like that's a Aries Spears brand as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy that take them kind of chances to tell jokes.
Right.
His sense of humor, that's
right.
the space he goes to. So, for him, he was telling the joke. Like for the media and the people, we want to get into fat shaming or whatever the topic of the day is, right? So you can at least easily offend anybody at any time.
Right.
So that's the point, I think, for me. I don't, I think it's distasteful. It just ain't my taste.
Right.
But
if you make a joke about someone, theoretically, you can offend. Every joke you tell that happens to be about someone can be offensive. Whether you talk about someone's speech impediment, whether you talk about the way they walk, the way they look.
Exactly.
So you can offend. If somebody wants to be offended, they can be offended by what you say.
Yeah, I mean, we was talking about this the other day because on Kings of Comedy, B. Mac, late great Bernie Mac, he got a whole joke about a challenge, disability.
Yes, made a challenge.
Right? Yeah. You can't say none of that now.
Right.
You couldn't do no parts of that joke. He called the little boy, the kids, and all the kids that was growing up. His nieces and nephews called him the F word.
Yeah.
Right. You can't do none of that no more. But these things was exactly at that time considered funny.
Right.
So if you start to retro people or what they said and how they said it or what they said in life, and now here we go charging them for the crime today. That is, that's a hard thing to do to someone who's supposed to be speaking freely.
I want to continue on this, but I want to go back. Pryor, Murphy, some of the guys in the joke that they told back then, how would they survive in today's climate?
Dude, we watched Delirious the other day. We like, nope. We just start counting off jokes like wouldn't be there. Eddie Murphy ain't really that good. You find yourself trapped in that story. Like if I had to take off all the jokes Eddie Murphy couldn't say nowadays, you'd be like,
yeah.
But that's the difference, right? Climate, the times we live in, what's acceptable in society, and we just got to a point again. We just have a lot more exposure to each other. We have a lot more growth that's happened as people.
Right.
So sensitivity, awareness about, things that just wouldn't be acceptable. None of the gay culture would be acceptable, like back then.
Right.
None of it.
None.
Let alone how it's grown into, multiple letters. You know what I mean? So that's something that just was you have to understand this is the world that we live in, and then you as a person growing and accepting and understanding that we live in a great big wide world, and that's the thing. And I think if people literally just truly trusted that part, then you wouldn't have to castigate against anybody that was different than you. You don't really care.
Tiffany Haddish says that she lost everything.
Yeah.
And it was because of some old skits. Because she kind of like Aries Spears said what he said about Lizzo. They went back and started dragging up skits that she was involved in, and then she kind of got dragged into something that she really didn't have anything to do with. And it's like, oh, but you remember? And this came out, and somebody wanted to sue her, and then the charges were dropped, but the damage is already done.
Yes. I mean, that's and again, those are the things that again, we live in accusatory point the finger at you first. And then you have to deal
and it's
with
guilty.
that.
I mean, it's not no longer innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, and anything, like I say, I could throw you anything out there out of context of like how it was shot, when it was shot, what it was about, and if you saw it as that thing raw, you're gonna be like, oh man, that's terrible. which again, to us today, that particular joke just was distasteful. I don't know exactly who would even have shot that. But, you know,
or thought that was funny, even at the time.
At any time. But however, you know, somebody thought it was funny.
Right.
And they did it, right? So, you know, and now here it is, you know, this many years later, and it, you know, adversely affect her for real. Like, it hit her career in a real way, man. So.
Have you talked to her? Has she?
I reached out to her. We text back and forth when it first happened. You know, of course, these are not the times when people want to just be taking 100 phone calls. But, you know, she knows that I got love for her and, you know, just really just trying to make, you know, in my, you know, just wanting, you know, wanting the case to be, of course, if it was really a bad case against her, just really rooting for her. That's all, you know. That's all I can say.
Growing up in St. Louis, I mean, you guys have, I mean, obviously you got a great baseball team when you know, in the late 60s with Bob Gibson. The Cars were unbelievable.
Lou Brock.
Yes. Kurt Flood.
Kurt Flood.
Now you look at Jason Tatum, you got Bradley Beal, Ezekiel Elliott. How proud are you for those guys being from St. Louis? You're from St. Louis.
Yeah.
You probably remember, I don't know, you're probably the age of a lot of these guys' parents.
Yeah.
And so how proud are you from, like, I got some homies that made it, doing it big.
Man, I mean, it's big. I mean, because you know, St. Louis, though it's a, you know, a big city, it's a small town.
Right.
Like, you know, and so that connection is very real. So we love that. You know, you love to see, you know, people pop off and come represent the city.
Right.
I mean, so, you know, it don't even matter what team they play for. At this point, you hold it down for them, right? Like, you know, like we in St. Louis, we didn't grow up as no Celtics fans.
Right.
But if Jason playing, like, we rooting for the Celtics, right? That's our whole thing. Ezekiel, you know.
You can't root for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that never really happened. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, Ezekiel, you know, he on his own.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
wish you the best.
Yeah, but I'll see you after the game. You know what I'm saying? Take your jersey off and we all meet up.
Right.
You know, put your St. Louis hat back on and you good.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you know Nelly before you guys blew? I mean, before you became Ced the Entertainer, before he became Nelly Mo, did you guys know each other?
Yeah, so I was young Ced the Entertainer, so I was actually popping off. I used to do a variety show, like a talent show.
Yeah.
And so I would come back to St. Louis and do this talent show. And, you know, Nelly then was a local with a local hit, doing really well. So I hired them to be like the final act.
Okay.
So they didn't compete. They was just like the person that everybody came to see.
Right.
And that was my first time meeting them. And that particular night, when I saw the group, there was the whole Lunatics, Nelly was automatically the star.
Right.
And so I just remember when they got their deal, everybody, you know, they came to me, it was like, yo, they want to just sign Nelly. We ain't going. I said, guys, like, y'all need to really, like, learn the truth about yourself.
Right.
Nelly the star.
Right, yeah,
Like, if y'all, and Nelly will take y'all with him, but y'all can't expect to go in there with 6 people, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that's not happening in big business.
No,
like, that's small.
The group thing over.
That's a,
The OJs,
y'all
the Four
not
Top,
Jackson.
the Jackson 5.
Yeah, ain't nobody.
Remember they cut the Jackson 5 to 1. It was Michael.
See? It started out, they did it all because they was family.
Yes.
It was smart. They was like, yo, everybody come on and we got it. What's the other boy name? Marlon? Okay, we're going to do, that's what they call him in the contract.
Yeah.
Got Jackie, we need him. With Jermaine, he
Tito,
writes some songs sometimes. Tito play the bass, that's good. We need him all kind of. But then, and what's the other boy name?
You got Jermaine, Jackie, Marlon.
Oh, yeah, Marlon, yeah.
Tito.
So come on, bring Marlon.
Yeah.
And then Randy came and he was like, all right, cool. That's how they signed them.
So, yeah. I'm looking.
We can't just get Michael.
I'm looking at your parents. Your parents went to an HBCU, kudos, Lincoln University.
Yeah.
You graduated from a PWI, Southwest Missouri State. Why did you go
Southeast?
Southeast, my bad.
Yeah,
Why did you go to an HBCU?
Grades.
Man, you made it back then. The grades.
Back then, you could get in.
Yeah.
No, you know what? Lincoln at the time when my mother went to school, we went to go visit. You know, again, HBCUs they have to fight hard for
funding.
So get funding, and it just was a situation where the Southeast Missouri was actually between Caruthersville and St. Louis.
Right.
So the reason it was attractive to me because that was the route that I knew,
Right.
like my whole life. we kind of go back to Caruthersville. When we moved to St. Louis, we go back. That was our little trip.
Right.
So Cape Girardeau, where it sat, it just felt like a place where I knew I was going to be comfortable going away. And then at that time, they were doing a program where they really needed minority students, so they gave me the most money.
Yeah, well, you got to go.
Situation, so that was it.
Yeah.
You know, it just became a great environment.
The financial aid.
Aid.
The financial aid package was a little better in Southeast.
Yeah, especially if you don't have no grades.
Right. Did you spend any time at an HBCU? Did you go to Lincoln? Did you party at Lincoln?
Oh yeah. Definitely went to Lincoln, partied there.
That's an experience.
You know, yeah,
I think everybody, and I tell people all the time.
Howard, we went to Howard.
You got to experience black college.
Yeah.
A homecoming or a game, to see the battle of the bands, to see the major the drum majors, to go on campus and see the step show.
Yes. Yeah. No, they go hard. Like, it was definitely that kind of
environment.
An experience. Yeah, for sure. Like, and you realize you miss it. Like, because I remember I used to always want to go to Grambling. Like, back then, because they marching band used to be so cold.
Yep.
I was like, man, I want to go to Grambling. And it just looked like a fun environment. And then, of course, Different World came in, started making black colleges look like it was like all the babes was there. You like, I want to do that.
You pledged Kappa.
Yeah.
Why?
With legacy, I mean,
y'all pretty boys.
Yeah, then a lot of people miss it when they look at me.
Yeah, because I would put you in the queue.
I say, yeah,
you
close.
I say you a queue. I say you a queue.
It's the dimple. Did you get it? Because it's a lot for me to get.
So were you good? Were you good with the cane? Were you good?
I was cold with the cane.
You cold with the cane? Come on, say. Hey.
I was cold with the cane. That was my move. So So
what was your line name?
Yeah, I was Dark Vader.
Okay.
Dark Vader. But my uncle, my only coolest uncle. I mean, I got several uncles, but my coolest uncle, my mother's favorite brother, was a Kappa. Yeah. So he was the guy that was that kind of sharp. He is a pretty boy, good looking man. Always been a good looking dude. But he was that family symbolism that I was like, that's me right there. So
you and Steve Harvey are great friends. Steve is a Q.
Yeah.
You're a Kappa. How did you guys become such great friends?
I mean, really over the time, it was really interesting. It kind of happened very early. I got stuck in Dallas one time. I was supposed to perform at an all-white comedy club. When I got there, they told me they didn't need me. And I was supposed to make $350. I drove down there. I had $100 and was going to make $350. And they told me they didn't need me. So now,
but I'm gonna need that $350 though. I understand I'm not gonna go on, but I need that $350.
What? I need that. Like, all I got is $100 now. Like, that would have been $450. That's a whole nother number.
Yeah.
$450. I'm talking about who drinking. If I got $450. If I got $450 on me, come on. I'm walking in the bar like, who drinking, man?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but $100?
No.
That's all.
I'm drinking.
Yeah, that's me. Get that one and get a single. Give me a single, I'm gonna drink it like it's hot coffee, whatever.
So what was it? What was it about Steve Harvey that you said, man, this is a good dude? And
he's kind of always been the person that he is, like very entrepreneur, very kind of go-getter, a fixer. So Steve he was popular on the white comedy circuit, but he started a black night in Dallas.
Right.
So I went and I was down on my luck. I was stuck, and he knew who I was through another comedian, and then put me on stage. And so I went up and I rocked it. He gave me 5 minutes at the end of the night. I got a standing ovation. It just so happens that the headliner wasn't really killing it, and he was like, "Well, if you come back every night, I'm gonna talk to the owner, see if I can give you a little something." Right. So he basically, that's what I did. I came back every night. He put me on. He gave me $200. And that was love, and then booked me to come back as my own headliner. Right. So from there we just connected. We just became friends. We had a good vibe with each other. It was always, cool, and it was, turned into this, brother situation. We just became partners, man. So it was easy. We never, try to get in each other's way. He do his thing, I do mine, and we get together, we kick it, and that's it,
How did you become the host of a BET Comic View and Def Comedy Jam? How did that happen?
So BET Comic View really was, again, one of those things I feel like God
looking
great
out comics that came through that.
It was, man. And God be looking out, because I was back at home. I was in St. Louis. I was like hosting local comedy things, but I had written a lot of jokes. and I wanted to go on television, but I had been on Def Comedy Jam the season before, and they wouldn't let me back on.
Right.
And I had all these jokes, and I was like, I got to go on TV. So I was like, I'm gonna do Comic View. And I remember all my contemporaries like, man, don't go to BET after you've been on HBO. Like, that's a step down. Don't do that. You're gonna mess up your thing, you know. And I was like, oh man, I was like, I got to get these jokes off.
Right.
So it just so happened that DL had decided to step down, and that year I went, they said we're gonna find a new host by a competition.
Right.
But I was already a beast. I didn't really. I was like on some others. And so I won easily, and then became the host and became a household name. Like I was, because at that time Comic View came on every night, so it was like the news. So and that's why I was black famous. I was like in black households. Yeah. I was on every night. Everybody knew me. Like I was like,
Comic View was unbelievable.
Yeah, and then we had, like you say, from Comic View in my era. Yeah, you had the Earthquakes when I was hosting. Earthquakes, Cheryl Underwood, DC Curry.
Yeah.
Adele Well, Dale came from Def Jam. She blew up on Def Jam.
Chucky Ducky was on there.
Chucky Ducky, Jamario and Jamario.
Jamario,
Hamburger ain't gonna happen.
Hamburger.
Yeah, so many great people came from that little era. Samoa,
Samoa,
one of the best. She one of the best.
When you did the Steve Harvey show, did you know the Steve Harvey show was going to take off like it did?
It felt like it. When we did it, Steve and I, we were great friends. It was his show, and he asked for me. He wanted me to be on his show, and I actually had a deal to do my own show at that time. And so I thought it was smart to ride, because I actually went to go see Steve do his other show, Me and the Boys.
Right.
So he used to have a show, Me and the Boys, that was dope, and I went to see how it worked, and it got canceled.
Right.
So when I had a deal to do my own show, I was wise enough to feel like I wanted to ride shotgun first. Right. I was like, I don't want to be in the driver's seat. I want to ride shotgun and watch how it's done and do that. And so that's what I did. And it was great because we was already partners. We was having a good time. We laughed a lot. And then the Kings of Comedy came right like in the third year of it, maybe, of doing Steve Harvey show. And then we blew up even more so. So it was like, we just had a great run.
That's what I want to ask. The Kings of Comedy. How did that group come? It was you, DL, Steve Harvey. Steve was more of the host, and Bernie.
Yeah.
How did they put you four guys together? Of all the black male comedians, because I think they had a Queens of Comedy also.
Yeah, afterwards.
But, yes. How did they land on you four?
Well, I think, at that time, again, it was all about I believe it was all about who the promoter can get that he thought could sell tickets.
Right.
Because Martin was his own thing. He was already gone. He was his own thing. And then it was like Joe Torre took over. Def Jam after Martin, so he was his own thing.
Right.
And then you had all the Wayans, and they was their own brand, right? And so Steve was hot. We had the Steve Harvey show, so we had a national TV show. Bernie Mac was the it comedian at the time, and then DL was hot. He had a TV show. So but the first year we did it, it was just me, Bernie, and Steve.
Right.
And Steve closed, and Guy Torrey was the host. He would MC it. I came out first. Bernie went in the middle. Steve closed. And then then as we got into the bigger run of the tour, we brought on DL. Steve went to the host, and even though on the special Bernie closed, I closed that tour. So I was the last comedian on the live tour.
Right.
But on the movie, they just cut it. It was better for Bernie to go last.
When you did that tour, did you like, okay, your boy here now?
Oh, what?
You can't hit me in the ass with a red
eye.
What? Your boy landed.
Straight pigeon toe. Straight dog. I'm like, dude, this is the first time. Like, this tour is so big. It's all arenas, right?
Yes.
So this is rock and roll comedy. This is private jets, leaving out on the weekend, get on the private jet, go to the show, land. Everybody got their own limos.
Right.
We got big suites. It's top of the food chain. You just don't get no bigger than this. And we were like making a lot of money. And it was with your boys. We was having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And at the time I was single, so on the first Kings of Comedy. So I know. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
If you want to be single again, keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking.
That's the quickest way. Let me ask you a question. If they were to do a Kings of Comedy right now,
classic.
4, who could they? I mean, could they do a Kings of Comedy with Rock, Hart, Chappelle? Could they do a Kings of Comedy?
For sure. I mean, those, they've done shows where they all
because Rock, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Rock and Chappelle, an earthquake was over in London at O2 at the arena, I think just about a month ago.
Yeah, so Chappelle's out on tour, Rock is out on tour in London side, and so they'll often get together.
Right.
And then they did it, Kevin is here. Kevin is on tour.
Yeah, Kevin get ready to start his. He
pop tour. Around. But they did. Kevin and Chris did a show in New York, and then Chappelle came and they went on stage together. And so that was a big deal. And then Chappelle, he been working. He produced Quake's special. So Quake is rocking with them a lot too. So that's dope. But that's it. You know what I mean? These guys are the big. I mean, people love Cat Williams. People love.
I love Cat. I love Cat.
So the branding of those, of those particular guys, like it's a way if they wanted to do it. But all those guys, so.
But they're kind of because, like you said, you looking like, okay. At the time, Martin was a standalone guy. Tori was a standalone, and a lot of these guys are standalone. You guys were like, Steve you were in comedy. Steve was doing his thing, but you guys kind of wasn't to that level that these guys are now.
Not we were standalone in theaters,
right?
And that's what made us a package for arenas.
20,000 seat arenas, something entirely
different. That's a different thing. It was and at that time that was just rare. So you had of course Eddie Murphy to do it, and then you have Martin. I think Eddie Murphy I don't even think he did a real tour. Right. I don't know. He maybe did a few dates, but Martin did a real tour in arenas.
Right.
And Dice Clay.
Right.
These were the kind of people that did arena tours, and so it was very few people at that time being able to do it. In Kings of Comedy did the Superfest model, right? Where we put a lot of people on one show and made it a dope night, and so it was extremely successful too.
Is it true that Steve and Bernie butted heads?
Yeah. I mean, they were the kind of guys that they both alpha males, like they both, they just saw it different, what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they was able to get through it.
You guys, is that one of the reasons why you didn't do? You did the first part, the second part.
I think of course that was definitely a contributing circumstance, but I also think that it had a lot to do with the promoter on the thing, because he got a bigger head than all of us. Right. So the dude that put us all together started to really think it was about him, so it started to be that. So it was a lot of those kind of elements in there where people just
sometimes people just ruin a good thing.
Yeah, just cause like y'all would be together if it wasn't for me. Like, okay, bruh. Like nobody.
You ain't told her one joke.
Nobody coming to see you.
Right.
Like but
get out there and tell a joke.
Yeah, that was like that kind of thing.
But now you're starting to lend your voice, doing voiceover.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of comedians. We see a lot of actors and actresses doing this now.
Yeah.
Boondocks, Ice Age, Madagascar, Charlotte's Web, and you got an NAACP award, Image Award.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is it about the voiceovers that you like so much?
Well, I mean, again, we grew up in an area where cartoons were king,
Every Saturday. But see, you only got them on Saturday.
Right.
It ain't like this thing now you watch them every day. Ain't no fun. I don't want to watch cartoons. I want to watch it one day a week.
Right, exactly.
Saturday
morning with the cereal.
Yes.
Let's go. Pajamas still on.
Yes.
But I think that,
Shorts
like
and the T-shirt is black.
But but pajamas.
We ain't really got.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I made a threw that out there to people. They was like, "Oh, I wonder what kind of pajamas you had." Like, no,
regular T-shirt,
just a regular T-shirt and some basketball shorts or something. It's the best we could do. So, but like when I started having kids, you start to really think this would be cool for them to hear my voice in the movie, and so that became a great choice. And they actually they pay well. That's the other thing that people don't know. About those, like those animated movies end up, you'd be quite surprised. I remember Madagascar was one of those, like when the checks came in, you was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, hey, y'all got a sequel coming.
Yeah, exactly. They ended up doing 3 of them and a TV series.
But I think the thing is, like, to do voiceover, you need a very distinguishable voice.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, because, I mean, you're really only leading with your voice. So the idea is like, yeah, what does the voice do? What can you do to kind of bring this character to life? Because most of the time when you're doing animation, they just show you a character, a still drawing.
Right.
And then you can decide what this character sounds like or what you want, along with the director who's trying to get you to say, all right, cool, we want, you know, can you be a little gruffer? Can you have an attitude? Can you be... You know, those kind of things.
Because anytime I hear animation, I'm always trying to guess, oh, man, who is this voice? I know this voice. Who is this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the case. You know, and that kind of goes like with, you know, doing albums. I remember doing like Threats on Jay-Z's Black Album.
Right.
And a lot of people for many years didn't know that was me because, again, it was a character I was doing and I like had a whole different voice for him and everything. So, like, that was like, you know, that was fun. And then so when people would read the thing, they like, yo, you Threats? I'm like, yeah.
When you do, and you do a lot of singing, you Luther Vandross, and you like the old school, you like the soulful. And I was thinking, I was like, man, Ced can really sing. You can sing for real though.
Yeah, man. I've been, you know, and I record some songs. I just never put out a music project. I think I'm gonna do it though, just on GP, so I can add it to that list.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you go out there and you open up, and has anybody ever told you, they said, man, you ought to do a record, bro. You ought to go ahead.
Oh, for sure. You know, one of the biggest fans of Jamie Foxx, he always like, come on, man, you should do this. You know, and he's definitely a person that as a comedian has transcended it all, like with big hit records and movies, and he's just super talented like that. So, but he's a big fan of like, man, you need to sing, Ced, let's go. You like Broadway? You gonna? I did. I enjoyed Broadway. It was very tough. It was that was one of these things I say, it was the most, it was one of the greatest experiences in my career where I grew. Right. Like, you know, because you get hot and, you know, life is happening and you have really cool things happen to you where you have like, you know, money milestones and stuff like that. But to as, you know, to kind of like have your career popping and then do something that truly challenges you and makes you get better. That was Broadway. It was like one of those kind of experiences where I definitely would do it again, but it was hard work. It was unique, and you know I was really glad. It's something I'm very proud I was able to do.
Because when you look at it, it's different than the movies. It's different than voiceovers because it's kind of like being a comedian because you're in front of a live audience.
Yes.
And the thing is that, like a comedian, is that you get instant gratification. Yeah. You know if the joke's funny. In a movie, you don't know. You don't, man, I think that's going to be good, but I can't wait to get the feedback. Same thing in voiceovers. But that instant, I mean, obviously, Broadway, they're not clap. You know, they wait to the end, you know, before they.
What was hard for me is that I was doing a dramatic piece, so I was actually stretching.
Right.
I did American Buffalo. It's David Mamet, a great American writer, writes a lot of words, a lot of wordplay.
Right.
And so you got to learn a lot, and you have to kind of deliver these characters. And so with that one, my natural instinct to be funny was something that I had to bring down. I had to press it down. So the director knew that, you know, that he liked the way that I was taking the character, where I was going to get some jokes off, but you don't have, in Broadway, you don't have the ability to improv anything.
Right.
So you have to do what the playwright wrote.
Right.
And that was a big challenge for a comedian, because if I see a window where I can get a joke off, then I'm trying to do that. Right. And I remember I asked one night, because we were doing Broadway with Barack won, and I had the first time he won, and I had a scene where I have the newspaper.
Right.
And I had this whole idea, like, it'll be dope if I say, wow, look at that, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, when I said it in rehearsal, everybody laughed. Whatever I said was funny. The director loved it. And then he was like, no. And I was thinking, because I thought it was about to be,
about to jump
I
off
was like,
the
oh, I will kill it tonight.
Right.
He's like, nope.
Give me Ced's Mount Rushmore comedians.
Oh, man. For me, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, the late Robin Harris, Chappelle.
That's all you get.
That's it.
I was about to say, you about to keep going. I was like, yeah, see, that's exactly why you probably didn't go to, you know, you about to name 5, it's only 4.
Yeah, so yeah, I didn't go to a, yeah.
See,
because
I see why you didn't go by
it feel like it's 5 people on that mountain, though.
It ain't but 4.
It ain't number 4 of them? A lot of people don't know that.
What's next for Ced?
Man, you know, I'm gonna continue to produce, and I'm producing right now. I got a lot of new shows that I'm producing for other talent, developing a lot of talent. You know, I'll direct more. We like I say, we're blessed to be in the 5th season of The Neighborhood. I got a show coming out. I got 2 shows on the Bounce Network that we produce, my company, A Bird and a Bear. So we have the Johnson, that's on Bounce, about a group of black men in their 30s, friends, and then Finding Happy is premiering this Saturday on the 24th of September. But it's going to be that's the 2nd show that we got over there. Is dope. Just creating, you continue to keep trying to push the limit, man.
It seems to me that you're transitioning more behind the camera than in front of the camera, especially when it comes to the movie side.
Well, I like that. I mean, I like to be able to create. I think, you know, I have the, you know, in the way these contracts are set up, I just have the ability to do more of that, because once you own a show like The Neighborhood, we shoot 22, 24 episodes a season. So you're locked up for 9 months. So in order for me to like stay creative and stay busy, it's easier for me to create stuff for other people, and knowing that I only got 3 months to get a movie in.
Right.
So usually, you know, we'll try to find something to do like in that break, and like, you know, and try to jump in and pop off. But I can produce 2, 3, 4 TV shows in that time.
Right. So how much further do you want The Neighborhood to go? Are you trying to go 6, 10?
Yeah.
Like 10 years?
Yeah, I think I always loved that, like what I consider legendary sitcoms. They usually go 8 to 9.
Right.
You know, of course, you have those anomalies like, I don't know, maybe Friends or something. They go for a long time.
Right.
But, you know, like
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. But they right in there,
Raymond.
2.5 Men, Raymond. They usually right at 9
Right.
years, 8, 9 years. And I think that that'll be a really strong run. I mean, as long as the network is loving us the way they are, you know, and we having a good time. We got a great cast. I love my cast. I asked everybody, would they want to rock, you know, longer? And they was like, yeah, we having a good time. So, you know, that would be the push for me, is to try to get, you know, in you know, Anthony's show Blackish just they went 8 seasons.
Right.
So I feel like that's the limit.
You get to 8.
Yeah,
you good, and then you'll reassess where you are after 8.
Yeah, exactly. Let's drink some of this yak.
Yeah, okay. You know, this is Laporte. I named it after, you know, you have after yours after your mom, and I got this after my grandmother.
Laporte is a family name.
Yes, it's Porter Ranch. That's good.
Where's Cognac? Is it actually from the region?
Yes.
It's nice. It's got a really nice body to it. Now, this is me drinking, learning to drink wine. So now I'm like, okay, it's full bodied. It's there's notes of summer and ass whoopings in here. You said it's named after your grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can see.
Got a little butterscotch.
Yeah, a little butterscotch. Yeah, a little butterscotch in there. It's great. Yeah, this is a smooth sipper right here. It's got like a brandy vibe to it. Okay. No, that's great. That's beautiful,
brother.
man.
I really appreciate it. Appreciate
That's
everything
good.
that you do. Continue success.
That's good. Yeah, that's hard. Thank you, man.
No problem.
This a gift?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I was, you know.
Yeah.
I really just said it on camera to make sure I got it. You giving me this, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
No,
bro, I appreciate that, man.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
Big up.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life I've been grinding all my life.